Hello there everyone. Today we're going to be reading a Russian Star Wars comic bootleg. Now there's been several Star Wars comic adaptation bootlegs throughout the years that have surfaced. One notable one was a Chinese Star Wars comic bootleg that the YouTuber Austin McConnell covered on his YouTube channel that included Darth Vader riding like a space triceratops. And today we're going to be reading a Russian Star Wars comic that I had no idea existed, that my friend and Discord user in my YouTube Discord server, Arituus, I don't know how it's pronounced, sent through to everyone in the Discord server. This is on oldcomics.ru, which I believe is a Russian old comics website. All the languages in Russia. And these are scans for a Russian Star Wars comic. So today we are going to be reading it together. First of all, looking at the cover, I'm not really sure what this thing is up here. It's like this Rancor looking thing, even though this is a New Hope adaptation. Maybe that's just on all comics at the time. Maybe it's like the publisher's mark, but it's kind of weird. Then you've got Luke here with his bright blue eyes in an X-Wing helmet, I guess, but it looks very much just like a space helmet. You've got your TIE fighters up here. These look pretty good. You've got your X-Wings, which are a little bit of a weird color, but they look recognizable. Now, obviously, I don't speak Russian, so I cannot translate or read this for anyone, but if anyone does know Russian, I'd be very interested in getting this translated sometime. So on the first page, we have like a recreation of the battle on the Tantive from the opening scene, and it looks pretty good. This art here with 3PO and R2 watching the Rebel troopers take on the stormtroopers is really well done. But then here's Leia giving the plans to R2, and Rebel troopers getting blasted in the background. Darth Vader killing Antilles here. The stormtroopers look really good, their design, and 3PO and R2 look quite good as well. Their Vader is pretty well done as well, from what I can see. Here you see the Star Destroyer and the escape pod. And here's Leia fighting back in her original outfit, and she looks pretty good as well. It's all recognizable as Star Wars so far, though the red eyes for Darth Vader are kind of comedic. The colors here work really well too. Like, I'm very impressed with how good this looks. This is really good looking Star Wars material so far. Then we get down to Tatooine here with 3PO and R2, and there's some Jawas here, and the Jawas look pretty good. The Sandcrawler looks pretty decent as well. In this panel, R2's red, but I assume that's just shading. Uncle Owen looks a little weird here, though, is something that I noticed. A little weathered, or more weathered, or just like his face just doesn't look quite right. Luke looks pretty good overall. I mean, not exactly Mark Hamill, but I mean, he looks recognizable, I would argue, as Luke in certain frames. Now, this is an interesting thing. We get to see 3PO in an oil bath here. That's quite amusing. In a hot oil bath, when R2 displays the message to the princess. And then we see Aunt Beru here, looking like a housewife from a 50s sitcom. And 3PO has a little accident stepping out of the oil bath, it looks like. Then the Tusken Raiders look very strange. Let me try to zoom in here on these Tuskens. They just look wrong. It's like, I'm assuming this entire comic was drawn from memory, perhaps? But these Tuskens just look not like Tuskens. It's a very artistic depiction here of these Tuskens. But it's really cool to see them regardless. And then Obi-Wan looks a lot younger than he should. He's got a lot more brown hair than he's supposed to. He's not completely white yet. The lightsaber activation looks really good. This is kind of a funky looking panel of Luke. But then there's the land speeder, and that looks right out of the film. And this is a little uncanny, this panel here. And then interestingly, the bodies of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, looks like he even closes their eyes, so they're not smoldering skeletons. he actually sees like their recognizable corpses, which is a little dark. Then going into Mos Eisley, we have some super interesting aliens, so I'm going to zoom back in here for these panels as Luke, Obi-Wan, R2, 3PO, and the gang go into Mos Eisley. There's some really great stuff in here. It looks like there's a Towels, there's Nabran Leeds, looks like some Shistovanians made it in still, and then there's Grindan over here, it looks like, and then maybe an Abyssin right here. Here's Wur, the bartender, an Athorian Hammerhead, an Arconin. There's the Biff back there, what I assume is a Rhodian. It doesn't look the best. Over here's an Aqualish. This looks like a new thing that they created, but overall the aliens look pretty good. It's a pretty good scene here. Okay, maybe this is supposed to be Dr. Evazan then, because there's a confrontation here, but Evazan looks decidedly more alien than he does in the film. And then here's Chewbacca, and Chewbacca is horrifying to look at. He's absolutely ridiculous looking. It looks like multiple aliens confront Luke rather than just two, and neither of them look like Ponda Baba, even though Ponda Baba's right up here. So these are very interesting. But it's mostly accurate to the film, and I love that we get to see the slice here with blood and everything. Just looks visually incredible, since we never really got that visually depicted, since it was cut up to avoid being too graphic in the actual film itself. That is a glorious panel right there. And then here we get them with Han and Chewie. And Han looks not too Han in most panels, but I guess I can see that it's Han Solo. I'm going to zoom back out though. Their battle here looks pretty good. The cockpit of the Millennium Falcon is pretty decent, and then the Falcon itself looks pretty good. I can't get over Vader's red eyes though, they're quite funny. Here's an Imperial Death Star gunner holding Leia hostage for some reason. I don't remember that from the film. That's interesting. The Imperial uniforms look pretty good though. Vader's costume though overall is pretty solid. And here's the Falcon having been taken into the Death Star. And they hide out under the floorboards like in the film, but then immediately just have a firefight. And look at Chewie here. He's absolutely glorious. The art depicting Chewie, I love that he's wearing clothes too. Look at his camo, his camo fatigues here. Absolutely incredible. And a jacket. He's also got a beer belly, which is really funny, because Chewbacca is usually depicted as being muscly and just this muscular hulking being, and not a pot-bellied, beer-bellied, middle-aged man in army pants. But this is a hilarious depiction of Chewbacca. Russian Baka is definitely a competitor for Czech Baka, I would say. But overall, the art on these panels does look pretty good. It's a mostly faithful adaptation. I think the violence for this Russian version is definitely toned up and allowed to be. Like, here's a stormtrooper getting its head blown off by a blaster bolt. Like, you certainly didn't see that in the film. And look at Chewbacca with the open mouth. Chewbacca really does look more like a dog in this adaptation. But yeah, it's overall a pretty faithful adaptation so far, especially if it was drawn from memory by someone who had seen the film. I don't have any information really on the year. Let me double check that at the beginning, but I don't have any information on what year this came out. Okay, 1994. So I do have information on that. So this is probably someone who had seen the film multiple times, maybe the VHS as well, by this point in time. So this is a pretty good adaptation overall. But it does make me wonder if they did Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi as well. I really do like the depiction of Vader versus Obi-Wan here. This is really cool how they're grabbing each other's arms while fighting. That looks pretty good. I like the hallway for it and everything. And this panel is really good. Like, if you just took a screenshot of like this panel right here or this panel here, you'd think it's like some really good official art. And then here's Obi-Wan disappearing as Vader's lightsaber swishes through him. Very, very cool. And then this firefight looks great again, except Chewbacca looks morbidly happy about it. It's absolutely incredible art for Chewbacca here. But then them getting away. It's all pretty good. Looks like this is Biggs here, maybe. And here is an amazing panel depicting the Rebel Council. There's a rat right here, and again in this panel right here, that looks a lot like a Tin Dwarf, aka a Tinnel, that was included in the Star Wars Holiday Special. Looks very much like it. Then there's this frog thing, and then some other species up here that are truly very alien. So I like that it allowed for a lot more aliens to be a part of the Rebels in this adaptation, and I really like a lot of these species here, like this thing with multiple arms, this crocodile, stuff that probably wasn't in the budget to do in the original movie. Like this frog thing is super cool. I mean, what even is going on with this badger thing over here, this hyena badger thing, this aardvark? But it makes sense that there would be more aliens involved in the Rebel Alliance since the Empire was discriminating mostly against aliens. But it's quite cool indeed. What's interesting is there's no sign of Mon Mothma here, but I really like that Alliance Command has more alien representation on the High Command. Chewbacca's crying tears here, as Han says bye to Luke. Okay, here's Biggs saying hi to Luke now. And I'm now assuming this is Wedge, since Mon Mothma's absent. Maybe it's supposed to be Wedge, but all of this art looks pretty good. I kind of really am digging the yellow X-Wing, X-Wings. They look pretty good. And here they're going against the Death Star. There's Vader. Now he's in his TIE. There's some glorious explosions and space battles. Here's art actually of Vader in the TIE, which the TIE looks kind of messed up now. But really good art. The artist is clearly very, very talented here. Then we get Obi-Wan literally in the sky, his voice speaking to Luke. Very nice artistic rendition. And there's the shot that destroys the Death Star. Really good stuff, really good stuff. And where's the depiction of the Falcon helping out? I don't see one, so perhaps the words describe, like, the Falcon shot the ship there. I'm sure that's the case. And then a celebration and the medal ceremony. Chewie still doesn't have his medal, but overall very, very cool. All these cheers, celebration, very, very good stuff. The Rebels with all these aliens mixed in the background, celebrating. This Rebel outfit here from Yavin looks pretty good. And again, the depictions of R2 and 3PO are really good throughout. I do not know what happened with Chewie, though. Apparently Wookiees are hard to draw because this thing looks like a dog. And then there's an ending page that I cannot read. And then there's some panels on the back that seem to be teasing Empire Strikes Back. Like, what even is this Yoda depiction? A Tauntaun, a Wampa, Luke versus Vader. Looks to be Dagobah again, maybe? I don't know what that's depicting. Some walkers. Leia and Han, I think? I don't know. But it seems to be teasing an Empire Strikes Back to come. So overall, this Russian Star Wars comic adaptation, I really wish I could read what the names of the artist and author, because they did a really incredible job. It's mostly faithful adaptation, but the Russian Chewbacca can definitely draw some laughs and be the subject of some mockery. But overall, the art here is really consistent, and it really does tell a very good retelling, a very good adaptation of A New Hope. I think this does an excellent job of capturing the essence of the story for Russian audiences. I think this is actually a really good comic, and it's very enjoyable to get to look at what other countries did for their unofficial bootleg adaptations of Star Wars. I think this is a very fascinating read, and if you have any more information about it, please let me know in the comments. And if there's any other bootlegs you'd like me to cover on the channel and read through, like perhaps the Chinese one, or perhaps you know how to find the Empire Strikes Back Russian comic. If you do, let me know, and maybe we will do some other videos looking through these comics together. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you thought of this Russian Star Wars comic.